Who's he with? Who's the guy in the blue? Who's the guy in the blue?
Wait, do you think
I think he's with the girl. I think he's with the girl.
I think he's with that guy in the weird outfit.
The guy in the gay jacket looks like Ryan.
She's wearing a wedding ring.
Ryan, is that you?
Where was that?
Fucking delayed response?
Oh my God.
Did he get married recently?
Good spot. Who spotted Phil Ivey right there?
Aaron, wow, sick.
Wait, what is this?
Check.
That's why he wouldn't play tonight?
Late minute. 100.
On the wall for more.
300. I was afraid of that.
Wait, who just told me they're going to the game? Oh, wait.
It's only
JJ.
200.
JJ.
You got more money than God up there.
No, you have more money.
I got
That I
text JJ.
do, but you have a nice little stack there.
You guys have all heard my famous Phil Ivey story,
I
haven't
watched
you?
you hit your flash and your straight.
The Daniel Negreanu slapping Phil Ivey in
yeah.
the face story.
Yeah.
What?
I did hear this.
What happened? Tell me.
You ever do that with like 5'6" or 4'6"?
You were at the bar with them.
I was out in Monaco with Phil and Daniel.
I was out in Monaco.
Where did I hear you tell this before?
I've
1948.
told it on like a couple podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. Give me this fucking speech, and you got.
I said, do you ever do that with 4 or 5? And then I called you.
And so as
I'm very
it's
stupid at the
me
games, so
and
keep it on
Daniel
and
and
put it all
Phil
together.
and a couple of girls the club shuts down. It's like 4 in the morning and we're walking back.
What does a couple mean?
Barry, that's only
Couple of-
$100
two
for every
girls.
time you
Two,
tell me to
okay.
shut the fuck
One's
up.
with Phil,
I think it's good.
one's unaffiliated. And we're walking back to the Monte Carlo Bay Hotel. The next day, like in 8 hours, is the 100K Super High Roller, which they're both playing. As we're walking down the street, Daniel's super drunk and gets real uppity with Phil and tells him that you wouldn't be nothing if it wasn't for me. You were broke so many times. I loaned you money to get back in the game. And Phil's like, yeah, no, I understand. And then all of a sudden, Daniel just reaches up and slaps Phil Ivey across the face. Just fucking slaps him right across the face.
What?
And I'm like, oh my God, Phil Ivey's gonna fucking murder Daniel right now. So I run over and I like put myself in between Daniel and Phil, and I'm like, Phil, don't. He's drunk. He doesn't. And Phil's like, it's cool. Don't worry about it.
25.
So we start walking again. The same conversation fires back up, and a second time, Daniel reaches up and slaps Phil right across the face. Just fucking whacks him open hand across the face. And I'm like, okay, that's it. Now Phil Ivey is gonna fucking kill Daniel Negreanu right here while I stand here and watch. Now, Phil I've hung out with a few times. Daniel I consider a close friend, so I'm very protective over Daniel. For a second time, Phil looks at me and goes, it's cool, but he looks at me and goes, remember, I owe Daniel 2 slaps. So we walk back to the hotel, and Daniel is so wasted at this point that he lays down on the floor of the lobby of the hotel. And he's like wailing. He's like, just going crazy. And the security comes over to say something to Daniel. Phil pulls the security guard aside and goes, I lost $500,000 in the casino here last year. You let this guy do whatever he wants.
Check to you.
And the guy just goes away. So Daniel's on the floor kicking and screaming, just being a complete idiot. The security guard eventually comes back, but this time he's got a wheelchair. And he's like, here you go, guys. And just gives us the wheelchair. So I put Daniel in the wheelchair. Phil's like, you got this? I'm like, I got this. He gives the security guard like, I don't know how many hundreds of euros, takes off with his date. They leave. I take Daniel back to his suite. Now, Daniel's got a suite with 2 floors. Not only does Daniel not make it upstairs, but he doesn't even make it to the couch. He's laying on the floor, kicking and screaming, and every time I'm like getting ready, he goes, don't leave me, don't leave me. And I put my hand on him to be like, it's okay. And then he goes, don't touch me, don't touch me. He did this for about 2.5 hours. Finally, like 5 a.m. I leave. This 100K super high roller starts at noon the next day. I finally leave at like 5:30.
And he won it.
I don't even remember what happens. I don't think he wins it. I remember that.
That would have been
He does
awesome
remember it.
story. And he
But the
won it.
next day, so I go down to the Terminator and I see Phil Ivey. Now, I've hung out with Phil not a million times, but like a half dozen times. He never remembers me. So he calls me over. He goes, one of these. I'm like, all right, yeah, finally, Phil Ivey and I, we're buddies now. We had this shared experience. And he goes,
Orders a Coke.
he goes, you remember I owe Daniel 2 slaps, right? I'm like, yeah, of course I remember. So me and Phil talk for a few minutes. He tells me a bunch of shit about Full Tilt. that nobody else knows. He goes, don't worry, when things come out, like, this is going to da-da-da. He told me a bunch of stuff like that. And I'm like, finally, I'm in with Phil Ivey. And I'm like, well, Phil, I'll let you get back to playing. He's like, cool. Nice talking to you, Jason. And fucking walked away. So even after all that, he still has no idea who I am.
That's hilarious.
But he still owes Daniel 2 slaps. And the thing is, one day at the World Series when I'm doing the ESPN shtick, I want to get the two of them together and be like, Phil, I remember this, but you owe Daniel 2 slaps. I want to see if I can get Phil to slap Daniel on the face.
Amazing.
You think you
For
can get Phil that
ESPN.
long on ES? Well, I guess if Daniel maybe.
If you catch him at the right moment, and
He'll be in the.
Phil's done a fun stuff for me and with me. You just got to
I've seen
catch
it.
him at the
I've
right
seen it.
moment.
It's
Yeah.
It's
hard
like right.
to have as
How
much
do you
money
get
as
slapped
you
in the face twice and not do anything about it?
Because I'm going to tell you.
Because there's someone in your life, there's someone
in
in your life that is such an old friend of yours
Right.
that you have such history with that if they slapped you in the face on a drunken night, you'd be like, you know what? I'm going to let that
I totally
slide.
have that.
I got a bunch of people
So
like that.
they're really close then. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's also still a dick thing to say.
What's that?
What
I think-
Daniel's saying to him.
I think
I mean,
it's-
even if it's true,
I-
like
I
to
un-
call someone out on that. I
I'm
don't know.
understanding it as two brothers going at it.
It's
you know
like
what I mean?
it's like two exactly.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Two very old friends.
Joe Stapleton on Live at the Bike, ladies and gentlemen.
Phil probably would have popped him in
You
the
think
face.
so? You think so?
Absolutely. He was being the cool dude who was like, that's cool, baby, that's cool. But if
Nah,
he wasn't
Phil's
there,
not
it
gonna
would've
pop
been
Daniel.
bam.
No, he's not
Phil's
going
not
to do
gonna pop
that.
Daniel.
And then, if anything, he would have tried to prove his manhood by hitting him in front of the girl. But if they're that good of friends, he wouldn't have done anything. He did what he was normally going to do.
Especially if Daniel's drunk and you're just like, it's my brother.
Especially when you're like a big dude and someone much smaller than you like slaps you in the face. You're like, is it really worth
Right.
having a fist fight with my friend right now?
Well, it
Or
sounds like it would have been a fight. You know.
right? No, it wouldn't have been. I thought I was gonna have to get my ass kicked for Daniel. The weirdest part is that there was a dude at the club who was like harassing us, and security threw him out. And when we left, he followed us, and I ended up shoving that guy, which I felt terrible about. But he came at us, and I shoved him, and he went tumbling into the street. And I was like, "Oh boy, we're gonna have to fight." And the guy just like, "What's that?"
Wait, what?
So some random fan, some stalker fan, like
Oh, I thought you
was
meant-
like,
I was saying, was he a poker guy? And you were
yeah,
like, "From poker?"
right. And he was bothering us, and I was like, "Guy, please, we're just trying to walk back to our hotel." And he like came at us, and I ended up shoving him, which I don't think I've done since to anybody.
He might have got hit by a car and died. You don't
No, he went tumbling into the street, and I was like, "Great, I'm gonna have to fight this guy now."
I didn't know we're Stapes.
And I didn't have to fight him.
That's
He just walked away, which I thought was odd for a drunk person, but
Ivy's kind of a big dude, huh? Like you don't.
he's
I'm-
tall, he's intimidating, yeah.
I was walking on the thing down the Rio last year, right next to him, and I was like, I'm 6'2". He's like maybe 6'3". Like he's a little taller than me. I think. I was surprised. I wouldn't have known that until I walked by him, and I'm like.
He
you know
just
what?
walks around with a quiet confidence that even if he were 5'11", he would seem 6'3". Like,
No, but I was literally walking by him. I wasn't nothing. It was just like, oh, I didn't realize he was so big.
You don't realize that Antonio is as tall as he is. You see him, think he's
Antonio like 5'11"?
You know
He's
what?
six-
That's
not
true.
tall.
I
No,
thought
he's
he
like-
was
he's
a
like-
tiny guy. I thought he was
Is
tiny.
he 6'2"?
He's not
Yeah.
6'2".
He's like
Antonio's
5'11".
6'1". No, he's not 5'11".
He's not 6'2".
No,
He's,
it's not.
he's over
No
6 foot.
way.
No chance he's
You want to
6'2".
bet? I'll bet you.
No chance.
You can look it up.
Oh, okay.
You just ask him.
He's probably listed at 6'2".
Right, exactly. Just so we can win prop bets.
Raisy daisy.
Yes. Got him.
Got me. Nice. Let's go. Gambo. Shooter, do you? Oh, you don't have cards, shooter. Me and the fish.
Please, maybe I could win a hand.
Seems unlikely.
I think Daniel recently told a story on his podcast about how the first time he smoked weed was with me.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So tell us what smoking weed with you.
Well, I made him vegan weed brownies for his first time.
Who'd you make that for?
For Daniel, because he's a...
Put vegan in front of weed and not brownie. So we're going to parse the sentence. What weed is not vegan?
No, but brownies aren't
the
vegan.
brownies.
Okay,
The
I got
brownies.
that. Yeah, right. The milk. Okay.
Well, what order should I have said it? Vegan brownies weed?
Vegan
Weed.
brownies with weed.
Vegan brownies with weed?
All right, let's just. It was a nerd
No.
Jew comment. We'll bypass it. It's okay.
Brownies, vegan brownies with weed.
Yeah.
Or
I made them.
Vegan weed
Vegan
brownies.
weed
Yeah,
brownies.
right, Seven.
See, vegan weed
Seven
brownies.
brownies.
Listen,
No,
colloquially,
then
Weed
vegan.
brownies.
I
Then
understood
brownies.
it the first time.
colloquially,
Now I don't
Go
give a
Bluff.
shit anymore.
vegan
Now
weed
Vegan
brownies.
weed brownies.
I go
Margaritas king on the turn.
It's vegan brownies, and
Yeah,
you're
good
qualifying it
job.
with
Turn
weed.
jack.
They're weed
So
brownies.
vegan
Jack.
weed brownies.
Floated and
You
turn
eat
jack.
brownies that are
The
weed
hell you
brownies.
started?
I shut down when I was.
Okay, anyways, I want to hear the story.
Or weed
I
brownies.
don't see the
Yeah,
thing.
you
I
have
don't
to
know
be
what
weed.
he
they get
told. I don't
older,
know
you
what
call
he
them
told
Girl
on his
Scouts.
podcast, so I don't want to say anything else other than that.
Oh,
But I'm
okay,
pretty
okay,
sure
yeah, yeah.
Is this just an advertisement for his podcast? Joe?
No, because I have my own podcast. No, I have my own podcast. I don't want people listening.
Would you
anybody
like to
li-
let them know where
Does
to see it?
anybody listen to it?
It's called Poker in the Ears.
Joe, can I get on your podcast?
I poker in the ears,
Poke her in
and
the ears,
I
or-
make pound for pound more money doing that podcast than any other thing I do. So yes, people listen to it.
Wait, pound for pound, that's a
Making
British,
like $100
that's a
bucks.
British term, right?
That's
Yeah.
why I
It
raised
is. It is a British term.
Shout out to Pounders.
Or are you Floyd Mayweather?
I am
Sorry, how much?
exactly. I don't know
Do you know
what's
what
going
that
on.
Rid.
He's a
dollars.
boxer.
Okay.
He fought Conor McGregor.
He did once.
Who?
Yeah. When that Floyd Mayweather Conor McGregor fight happened, I was like, you know what? If I want to watch a racist and a wife beater fight each other, I would have never moved out of Boston. It's just a Saturday night in Boston.
You from Boston?
Watching you.
I went to
East.
college in Boston.
Where'd you
yeah.
go? BC or what?
Where'd you go to
BU?
college?
Well, BU, Boston U, yep.
The Terriers?
Terriers, correct.
How do you know that? Are they like Division 3?
No, their
Division
hockey
one.
team's very good.
D1.
Yeah.
They're in
D1
the,
hockey.
Where'd you grow up?
The
Albany, New York. Smallbany, we call it.
Miss
Where did
Sullivan.
you grow up,
New
Mika?
York
Which part? Long Island?
City,
The city? Manhattan.
Manhattan. But I went to boarding school
Manhattan.
in Massachusetts. So.
Okay. One of